Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing, the podcast for and with manufacturing leaders. I'm Mike and this is Trevor. We want you to join us on our journey as we help you gain new insights, moments of clarity, and self-awareness.
Hey, if you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone and uncover new perspectives to make your next day better, grab your coffee and let's go.
Good day, Mindfulness Manufacturing community listeners. Excited to have you on again today. Very excited. We got a couple special guests with us. And we're fortunate that we've had guests over the past couple podcasts based on what's happening in today's world. Very excited. These two gentlemen really have helped us a lot in terms of manufacturing. I'll turn it over to Trevor. He'll do a bit of an introduction, and then we'll get the podcast started.
Yeah, for Mike and I, we're very grateful today for our younger times and developing our own leadership styles in mindfulness. These two gentlemen had a very big influence for us growing up in manufacturing and learning how to carry yourself and learning how to be a world-class organization. So very excited today to introduce two gentlemen. First of all, we got Horst Prelog, and he worked with Magna in the Cosma division for 25 years, immigrating from Austria as a young tool and die maker and starting as a process engineer and working his way relatively quickly to president and COO of Cosma. So very, very large scale. And the one person he worked with that had a huge impact on Mike and I is Scott Turner, and he worked with Magna as well in the Cosma division, spent 26 years progressing and growing through the organization, working in the 2000 years as the executive vice president, working for Horst. So we're going to have some conversations about how they work well together and maybe what could be challenging. And under their leadership, this company grew to 10 billion in sales with over 30,000 employees, 40 manufacturing divisions, 19 countries, just a leader of a tier one automotive metal forming industry, just a pleasure to be a part of. And we're all very proud of that. And during that leadership, they built 15 mid-sized to large factories. So welcome, guys.
Welcome.
Well, so thank you for inviting us, me, Horst. I'm really happy to be part of your mindfulness approach.
Good to be here. Scott here. Looking forward to it.
Right on. Yeah, very, very great to get you guys on. We've had a few requests from listeners to hear from you guys, so this will be a great recording.
Yeah, our Cosma Magna friends have been wondering when we're going to get you two on, so we're happy to have you here today for sure. We'll get things started, Horst. I got a question for you, and keep this going back and forth. So when you think back to your time, you took over a very successful group and made that even more successful, technically, and the people side for morale, engagement. Share with the listeners, what were some of the key things you focused on during those times when you took the group over and then grew it to be even as successful as it's become today?
Well, Mike, it was a challenging undertaking to say, but the key was really a mindful approach. It's basically what you're teaching now. It's you need to really think about it and know what you need to do so that everyone goes into the same directions with the same goals and the same focus in a harmonious way, so that you have a real team together that you can move forward. Otherwise, you stand alone there and you have to do all the work yourself, and you will spin your wheels on the spot and not getting anywhere. The first focus was really focusing on the people to make sure that everyone knows what is expected, what we are going to do, and how we will work together. Because it's the people who will make it then really work, the processes, the technical staff, operations, admin work, and so on. That's really what the team needs to do. But you have to focus on bringing the team to this level.
Yeah, if I can just jump in on that, the really big challenge for Horst was what you referenced, Mike, was that it was a successful company when Horst became president. So there was a lot of people that thought they were doing the right thing. They were doing great things. We had some successful launches. We were doing well, return on investment. So why change, right? We were in a decentralized organization. Who is this new president to tell us different things, take us in a different direction? So it was very challenging, of course. The world was changing. Customers were demanding cost downs, a lot of launches, a lot of growth. So there was a lot of challenges that Horst and the team faced in those early years.
Yeah, you're right, Scott. It was almost like we had to bring first the people to a different mindset to say, well, we are pretty good. Actually, it was great already at that time. But how can you get greater? There was a little bit of challenge to say that. And there was one leadership author, Jim Collins, right? He basically said the enemy of good is of great is that you are only good, right? So when you are already so good, you think you cannot get better, and you're complacent. So you need to really get a different mindset to know there's way more out there than you can imagine.
Right on.
Yeah, that was a influential reading for all of us. I remember that being passed through. And there's a lot of companies that can say that, Horst, and it'll say on their website. Mike and I were in a unique position where we were so distant, from where you and Scott were, but at the same time, we felt like we were with you, like we understood it, like we breathed it. I mean, even when I run into people today that I didn't work with directly, but they also work for you guys, we have this instant connection. It's like, oh yeah, I worked with Horst and Scott too. And it's like, we kind of speak the same language. We treat people the same. It's almost like we went to the same school. So the question, for other plants and companies, how do you actually do it? Because there's lots of people that have the window dressing, but they don't really get the connection to all their team members, and we had that. Yeah,
it's a hard work, right? It's two real things. Is the one thing is really, I think Scott and myself, we were like hands-on people, right? We looked for the connections to the people, to be close and be close connected and communicating properly, right? But what the message is, the thing is, of course, also you need to know what to communicate, right? We established at that time a clear vision where we really want to go, because people saw like this is where we are and that's good enough. No, we want to go there. So a clear vision, where do you want to go? What is your mission on this journey? And then also how, what are the values we are adhering to, how to get there, clear guidelines, how to work together. The way how we did that is we wrote down different principles, standards, and we even created a credo. It was like a small pamphlet writing down of the goals, the expectations, and all those things. And then, of course, we had to empower the people. And the way how to empower them is building relationships and giving them the empowerment that they can do things and also make their own decisions how to get there. That created then a level of trust, right? And you need the trust in order to move forward with a team.
Horst, you got that empowerment and connection with the people and buy-in because you involved us in the creation of those missions and values and such. Now, of course, you had some non-negotiables for us. I mean, you set the tone, but within that tone, we had a great opportunity to play with things and prioritize things, and we had some really tough discussions between some of the groups, and And when we came to that conclusion, and you were part of it, and the team, buy-in was for sure taken for granted because we helped create it.
Yeah, it was a collaborative approach. That's true. Yeah, you're also right. As the president or CEO, you do need to set out certain non-negotiables, right? If you say, well, if you have the vision that bring the company a certain way to a certain step, that you need to say that. And you also have to say, do you want to be, what style, in some ways, what style you want to have in leadership as well. Saying this is not negotiable, right? I don't want to be a dictator. I want to have my open, collaborate approach. If that's your style as a leader, you need to say that. And those are certain things are not negotiable. But then the next level of details is definitely has to come from everybody's idea. And then you need to, as a team, agree with that. And I think that worked really well. It was amazing, actually. I am glad to hear the feedback from you two, Trevor and Mike. even 10 years after.
Yeah. What's interesting, Horst, what you said there a second ago was the collaboration. And we work with large manufacturing plants in our business, plant managers, shop floor leadership. And you hear those words, but when we actually dive into the details of the leadership team, Trevor had mentioned earlier, there's a little bit of window dressing there. So from our part, working under you and Scott, we saw that a shop floor perspective from the plant manager right down to the team members doing the work. You mentioned the word credo. Now, we still have our pamphlet, believe it or not, from 10 plus years ago. Yeah, exactly. You just held it up. Trevor and I conversed about this quite a bit. And I never had the opportunity to ask you this question years ago, and this is great that we can do it today, is think of the key elements of that credo. So for our listeners, what were some of the key things within the credo that were really near and dear to you and it made a difference within your plants?
Yeah, I'll tell you, but I want to add to your comments there is the reason why we had to stick with what we were saying was because we wrote it down and we created this credo, this pamphlet, and handed it out to every employee. So everybody knows, what we are up to. And for us to deviate from that was very difficult. It was like the Bible. It was like the law book. So if you write it down, you couldn't, Scott and I couldn't really deviate it. And once in a while, when we deviated it a little bit, the team was somebody clearly puts you in place again. Right, Scott?
Oh, big time.
There's no chance for you. So for those ones who are just don't only use a slide and say it in one meeting, you need to bring it to everybody in your company, in your whole team. And they all need to know all those values. Yeah, what is on the credo? There's a list of values. How do you work together? Well, we decided as a team, trust, respect, honesty, fairness, and integrity. But you can, write in anything you like, right? So, or as a team, you decide what values you want to have. Maybe in today's world, some of those are maybe not as important anymore. I don't know. It seems to be, unfortunately. But I think we decided that way. We had principles on it that we say, well, a principle is that we help each other. And if somebody is in trouble, we help that person. As individuals as well as groups or departments, between departments. If the assembly department is in trouble with whatever quality reasons or not enough support there, then the other department, the press department or so, would help out. And it wouldn't be like, well, I'm glad they are in trouble and I look better now. No, we all look bad if there is a problem in one department in our company. So we had to put those principles in place, making sure that everybody knows it and that we would reward the people accordingly to say when you follow those. Goals, it also shows goals. What are the goals? Where do we want to go? And goals, not only like financial goals, which was, of course, a big part of it. But it determined who were the stakeholders in our business, right? And for all the stakeholders, we established goals because we wanted to achieve results, great results for each of the stakeholders. And then we had a whole list. Actually, they were in the credo, when I read it here, like we had 20 points of commitments we wrote down. The commitments, more or less, how each person would work in our company.
For the listeners, the one thing I can say from personal experience was transparency. There were no secrets with it, and there was accountability in a very positive way. So I really appreciate those times, and it worked extremely well for us.
I want to go back a little bit there, Horst, because a lot of times Mike and I have talked to leaders, and they're like, "Yeah, this is our values, but you got to understand, Trevor, when we're tight on parts, or we're running tight to the customer, we sometimes have to go around those, and and they can almost talk themselves out, and the ego also drives things to say, yeah, I know I put that in the credo, but I'm going to do this instead." So how did you handle those challenges? Because it sounds like you got challenged yourself.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I'm not. I cannot say that this is an easy thing to do. That I have to say. It's difficult. Sometimes you're really in a very difficult position. But it comes down to, if you don't follow those values, what you established, then you get in trouble down the road. You can, if you have a problem with a part, for instance, a quality issue, and you think you want to cheat to send it still to your customer, then it will bite you at the end, because it will come back to you eventually. Maybe one or two will go through, but the third one, it is a slippery slope, right? The third one will not get through it, and you will be in trouble. So violating those good intentions you as a team had to establish, and if you really believe in it, that this works, you have to stick to it. That is, I think, the key thing.
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump into that point about when troubles happen, and all companies face those troubles, and you've got upstream processes that you're relying on, and you're shipping to a downstream department. And as you said, Horst, ultimately it's the customer that pays the price. But in many organizations, like the one we inherited, where managers are rewarded based on how their department does, it just makes it that much tougher when this new president comes in, or through the general manager says, guys, we're working together. It's the customer that matters. You need to send some technical guys down to that department, or you need to help sort parts, and that goes on his budget, or it takes away some of his resources. That's a tough situation in a decentralized organization. It really takes, as Horst was saying, it really takes a steadfast mandate and clear vision and accountability, and ultimately who you promote. If you promote the ones that look good and yell and scream, as opposed to the ones that are cooperating and helping the ultimate customer, then you got a problem. You need to, as they say, walk the talk. Yeah,
the thing is, we did it in a way of convincing way that you have to work together. If you are decentralized, if you're centralized, it's easier because you get more. It's a more streamlined approach, right? But if you're decentralized, you do need to convince people that this is the right thing to do. And that you also get the benefit when you are in trouble, right? It needs to go both ways. It's like you need to convince people that this is a benefit for everybody, but probably at different times for you, right? And that's a key. Now, we also changed the compensation model a little bit, where we we compensated a certain bonus to the overall success of the company. So I just talk about if we had a press shop and sub-assemblies, but any manufacturing, 2 different divisions or more than 2 different departments have the same scenario there, is where one would say, okay, I don't really care if, they make less money or they have bad quality because I am good. We said some of a certain percentage of everybody's bonus was the overall success of the company. So if another department screwed up and has bad parts shipped and there was a financial impact, then the bonus of everybody, of every employee or every manager was affected. So that tied it a little bit together to even in a monetary fund, in addition to the moral and to the support.
And Horst, that was not an easy change. You would think that something like that, with a bit of work, with a bit of convincing, would be easy to kind of roll out. But I tell you, I think climate change is easier to solve than that one was.
Yeah, I remember. It was a tough change, but I think it had its effects.
And what happens to the one, because we have always got one that doesn't want to change at all, no matter what the structure is, because it sounds like, we know that structure drives behavior, drives results. The other thing we know is, from the mindfulness standpoint, if you're always focused on yourself, you don't grow, and you actually get more energy from focusing on others. And the structure you're really driving is, if you're always only focused on your own plant, on your own department, you're only going to be expansive to that point. And when you start helping others, your own development just flourishes. So you guys drove that structure. But what do you do with that one plant that just doesn't want to help the other plant, or the department doesn't want to help the other department? How do you handle that? Because that's real.
Well, you need to. It was like a very focused discussion with these plants, right? Or those responsible people in there. And at the end, if you're the leader of a company, or if you are a president, or vice president, or president, or if you're a manager, department manager, or a supervisor on the line, if you do need to give the direction and do everything possible to convince and show the people that this is the right direction where you are going, so you get their support. Now, there is a certain percentage, logically, which doesn't matter what you do, doesn't follow. Then you need to basically ask that question, do you want to be on this team? And do you want to go with us or not? And if not, then maybe this is the wrong place for you. We called it the right people on the bus. It's like a bus, like a school bus, going from one place to the other place, and people are sitting in there, and everybody has its role, right? The driver has its role, knows exactly how to drive the bus. Without the driver, you can't get anywhere. And the navigator has its role, knows where to navigate, where the next turn is. And each passenger is, having fun or doing something. So, but if you're not happy with your role and you don't want to drive there where the leader in that bus is saying you should go, and saying, no, I don't want to go there, I want to go somewhere else, well, then maybe you need to exit the bus. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, unfortunately, Horst, we didn't have too many of those exiting the bus situations. We talked about getting the right people on the bus, and then, of course, the next step, as you're saying, is getting them in the right seat. And that's particularly tough when the guy wants to drive the bus. And if he wants to drive the bus, but he's not necessarily the best driver, that was where you had to step in and modeling the right behavior. You would have to move that person, with sufficient guidance and direction. But ultimately, we probably or hopefully want that person still on the bus, but maybe there's a better seat for them than driving the bus.
That's right. Sitting, being on the bus where we go, and then sitting on the right seat, we said, right? And sitting on the right seat, that brings really a topic up. is you as a leader, you have a team of people, a group of people. A team is really different experts for the different challenges, tasks, and so you have to have. And I think you as a leader, you do need to see what is the strengths and the capability of each of your people, and then place them in the right position, into that right seat, so that you have a perfect scenario to manage your business. You know, it's like, I think Scott and I, we were like a fantastic team. You know, it's like Scott had these capabilities I don't have, and vice versa. But together we were like, I thought we were dynamite, and that, and that's the key, right?
As long as you didn't light us with dynamite, you want to look at it. You don't want to light us.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's you do need to recognize, also as a leader, you do need to recognize what are your strengths and what can you do and what should you do and what are your weaknesses and where do you need other peoples to fill in, right? And then make this merge together, basically this team. And the better you can form the team with different skills and motivate them, that they all have the same idea where to go, where are the goals, what is the vision, you know, the more successful you will be. Without a doubt, you will be successful then.
It's a great point when you talk about offsets of two leaders. And an old friend of all of ours years ago told me, if I have two leaders and you're both the same, why do I need two leaders?
That's
so
right.
It's a real opportunity, and that comes from Andrew DeHaan, a good friend of ours. And he's been on the podcast, and we keep in touch, and he's a great person. Thinking about what you mentioned, Horst, and I go back to Jim Collins, Good to Great. The division we worked in, the plant was very, very supportive of, the structure you and Scott put together. So we got a lot of those opportunities. I think about the learning environment you provided. Why was that so important to you for a manufacturing plant to learn and grow? Because there are lots of them that don't promote that type of stuff.
Yeah,
I come across them quite a bit.
I don't understand why people, leaders won't see that learning environment is not important. This was one of our key elements to have that success. You have to become a learning organization, and I know, Scott, you had the same drive towards that. I think we became like a learning organization. Without that, you are very limited, because if you have a plant and you think you have the perfect team, everybody is highly skilled, they all know what exactly they do, then you don't need to teach them anything. But I know from experience, I haven't seen a plant like that yet. It doesn't matter if you're in automotive, in aerospace, or if you're in an insurance company or somewhere else. It doesn't matter. All those businesses have the same issue. So you can say as a leader, well, he doesn't do a good job. He's bad. You are fired. You are fired. Well, let's fire everybody, and what is left? Nobody. You alone then. And then you want to hire somebody. Well, whom do you hire? Where do you get those skills from the outside? You don't. You hire the next person from the outside, and you will see that that person is not perfect either. Nobody is perfect. And the same is also for yourself. You yourself, you need to learn as well as a leader, because you are not perfect. And that's really the key. We say this: instead of constantly firing and hiring, which is very expensive for each company, we have very talented people. If they have the talent, and if they have the will to learn and the commitment to learn, then let's teach them. And that's why we became a learning company. We established training centers in different plants, and learning tool and die making, electricians, robot programmers, and so on and so on. And we had business modules. We created training programs. We said we don't have enough business people. Scott was actually the one who developed his leadership, a business development training program to say, okay, how can we multiply Scott's knowledge and skills? And he and with a team developed the whole program. It was like that. The same was with the press shop leaders. We had the press shop is a very complex technology, especially the transfer presses. So there are very few people who are really excellent. But how can we multiply them? How can we multiply them? We had lots of talented people there. They just were eager to learn how to do that. So we developed, Donna put together a training program, a 2-year program for press shop leaders, how to become a great press shop leader. We trained, I think it was around 40 or 50 people that way. And I actually, interesting enough, I'm still in touch with many of them. And all of them have like a top positions now. You know, they're not only press shop managers, some of them are press shop managers, but most of them are advanced to higher levels than press shop managers from the group we taught. Yeah, we had to do that in order to fill the requirements we had in the business. So we developed our own people with the skill what was necessary in order to do the job.
Yeah, and Horst, it was even more than that. Just to help you connect the dots a little bit, it stems all the way back from the vision, from growth requirements, from changing in new technologies and customer changing. That drove your vision and our vision for the succession planning concept. We wanted to promote from within. As you were commenting, Horst, it doesn't make sense to bring people in at medium to higher levels. It just frustrates the people that want to grow. So, you know, when you have that as a fundamental principle, how do you get there? You need to train, you need to learn, you need to develop, and then you need to acknowledge or recognize that by promoting those people. But you have to have the infrastructure in place, the training programs, the mentoring, the coaching. You have to have those things in place to take you through that succession plan concept that was, again, part of your vision.
Yeah, that was great. You know, in some places we had no other choice anyways. We built a new plant in Mexico, in Saltillo, Mexico. We built a huge plant with 3,000 employees there. And it was like a small, sleepy town, Saltillo, at that time when we started. And like a desert around it. So where do you get all those experts, you know? At that time was Willy Evers and his team. They did a fantastic job. And Willy was very much in line with us in building a training center in Mexico that way, saying, you know, the only way how we make that happen, he said, is, well, we need to hire talented people and we'll train them. And that's what happened. And they were extremely successful.
This ends part 1 of Horst and Scott. Check out our next episode where they discuss what they would have done differently with what they know today, the current state of manufacturing and leadership, and what they're doing now.
Hey guys, thanks for taking the time and joining us today. We had so much fun. Please remember to subscribe. It's free. Share it with colleagues. Look for our next episode in a couple weeks.
If you want to drive results, the first step is realizing how you show up.
That's the essence of mindfulness in manufacturing.